against the spirit and even letter of the ILO decent work agenda. So you cannot choose to pay, because even in the most advanced economies of the world, there is always a benchmark, a minimum benchmark. You will find out that within the firmament of the Nigerian economy, even talking about the states, yes, 18,000 naira is the minimum wage. Of course, it's still a starvation wage. We've not gotten to where we want to be. But in spite of that, some state governments say they can pay. But I tell you, there are state governments who pay 25,000 as minimum wage. And they are not among the richest of the states, because they realize and they recognize the dignity of labor. And that without these people, the very wealth that they misuse in buying private jets and doing all kinds of things will not even be there in the first instance. So it is something that every Nigerian must come against. Yes, people ask, how many workers do you have? But for every single worker, you have about 20 or more people attached. You are a worker. You know what it is like. You know, considering our unemployment level, for every one person who earns any pittance as salary in a family, the whole extended family depends on that person. And you still ask, how many workers do we have? So this is the kind of frame of mind that bring onto all things that cut across the grain. And you find now people trooping onto the streets. These are issues that have been legislated upon. These are issues of law. Why do you want to remove the minimum wage from the exclusive legislative list? Because you want to pay slave salaries. We say no to that. It can't happen. We will ensure that it doesn't happen.
Mr. Adewusi, just quickly, I was just going to ask you if you've been able to find out amongst these three states who claim that they cannot pay and have refused to pay, have you been able to truly research into whether it is truly a case of whether they cannot truly pay, or that they want to pay but cannot really afford to pay, or they're just, not being conformist with the law?
They do not want to pay. Those state governments themselves are executive rascals. They just don't think that a worker deserves to live. They forget that themselves are workers. They have all kinds of stupendous pension and gratuity allowances for themselves when they leave, apart from living on the blood and the sweat of all of us, and yet they don't believe that the peasant worker should earn any decent living. Of course, we have our research bed into those places. We found out that no state government, and I don't want to begin to mention states here, even the
I'm afraid that you might have to, because we need some examples here.
All been able to pay.
You don't think that shaming and naming would also work?
Sorry, I didn't get that, please.
You said you do not want to mention any states because we're talking about research. You say that all that you have said concerning these state governments who refuse to pay is based on research. And you say that you do not want to name any state. Well, we're saying that you might have to.
For instance, let me give you an
instance. Naming and shaming is also a tactic sometimes used.
At the time we were negotiating, we had taken, for instance, a state like Cross River State. We are taking a state, some other states in the north, whose economy is seen to be largely dependent on the federation accounts. And the minimum wage benchmark that was agreed by all the social partners, I must tell you, was about 27,000 something after prolonged negotiations based on all the facts, on purchasing power parity, on inflationary trend, on everything. So all stakeholders, including the state governments, who were represented by their own appointees. Now, we all agreed, we look at it, we say, okay, hey, because of this and this and this, we found out that to make it very possible for every state to be able to pay, let us take this benchmark of 18,000. It wasn't that 18,000 was agreed. Already, Labour has got into some forbearance by saying, okay, we understand, we don't want anybody to complain. So it's not as if the states were not involved in these negotiations. They were there. How they chose their representations or representatives shouldn't be our concern. But they were there. The private sector was there. And for the first time, even SMEs, the small-scale entrepreneurs, were brought on board. You know, so it's something that one finds baffling. And the records, the statistics, they brought their own, we brought our own, and it was seen that there was no state government that could not pay that 18, and they pleaded. That plead at 18, that there will not be any controversy, and yet we still have some controversies for some of them. Okay, so you can find out, you find out that this is just one being selfish, so that they can hide a lot more to be able to fund their nefarious activities.
Let's take some questions coming through from some of our viewers now. Henry Asede says, why is it difficult to know exactly how many barrels of oil we produce? Perhaps he likes you to give him the benefit of your research.
Well, because those who are in charge make it impossible. Of course, you know that oil is classified as top security issue. So there are areas, yes, you have statistics up to a point, but up to certain points, you do not know. Because the ones that, the illegal bunkering that is going on is almost equal to the official things. So that makes it difficult. And that's because either the regulatory authorities or those that are directly in charge of the supervision want it so. And that's why we came out in a statement last week to say that government was involved and in fact encouraging illegal bunkering.
Well, just a couple of days ago, we saw you make a remark concerning the accommodation or housing project for workers, and you used the term for workers. What qualifies a Nigerian as a worker to get such homes?
You must have an employment. And that presupposes that you must have a salary at the end of every month. Because the money is to be deducted from source. And if you do not have a salary that is definitive, then it becomes difficult to do that. And if you don't have a salary and maybe an accompanying or accruing gratuity on pension, it becomes difficult in case you are not able to pay off before you leave, either one way or the other. And we do not want a situation where you are allocated a house because of your inability to pay is taken away. So those who are not able to go the whole hog of 15 years to pay, who have a regular employment, their pensions and gratuities will be charged. So that because, again, we want to make sure our members get decent houses at very, very competitive prices and generous terms. Because let me also tell you again, apart from our partnering with some foreign funders, we are also going to lean back very heavily on our contributions in the National Housing Fund. For years, workers have contributed into this fund, but hardly any worker has been able to access any loan from here. Instead, we are the ones funding hybrid developers who sell these houses at premium that no worker can ever dream to buy. So we think that that era is also gone and gone. This is our money, and we should be able to access it. Luckily, the government side had agreed, because we cannot continue to have others live on our sweat without at least having a benefit. We create the wealth. We should be able to benefit from the wealth.
Just quickly now, I was just going to ask you if Labour will be asking for a new minimum wage. Today is May Day.
No, we will not be asking for that.
All right, then.
At this particular minimum wage. Our research is still going on. When we are done, we will make a new presentation and a new demand, but not yet.
Interesting. All right.
Well, actually, I was going to stay on that housing issue. What is Labour doing? Because once there were these deductions from salaries of workers in the employment of government concerning a national housing scheme. A whole lot of Nigerian workers don't even know, well, what has happened to that kind of savings or deduction from their salaries. Is Labour in the know now that you say you're into housing for workers?
Yeah, I just explained that a while ago. That's the National Housing Fund. I say for years we've been contributing, and no worker has benefited or has been able to access this money to build anything. Instead, this money has been funding, should I say, luxurious apartments for the rich, with very cheap access to our money. And that's what we have said, that we are leaning on that money now.
Allow me come in.
We are asking for our money, and luckily,
are we thinking
the
of any
government
reform?
has agreed they are going to give us some money from there. It's going to be a loan, but of course it's going to be at an interest rate that is affordable for our people. After all, it's our money. Are we even supposed to pay interest on our own money?
That's the case in point, because now some have retired. They're still battling with their pension. And this deduction we just talked about, are you working towards a refund from the government to give to these people that are still alive and still in the employment of government?
There is a process. If you are retiring, you get the money back. For those that we know of, yes, we put the demand for. But one good thing about our housing project is that it accommodates all segments of our people. Of course, you know that the pensioners are also our members. They don't have any salary, but they have pension. For those who have died, but who have not collected their pension, who still have survivors, they are going to benefit from this. Because for the first time, we are building houses not only for the active workers, but for those who have also retired. We are interfacing and cooperating and partnering with 3 major developers. So at whatever houses we build, the pensioners will also have access to it. It's not only those who are active, but you must have a pension. You must have a pension and or a gratuity as a pensioner.
What's the result?
For you to be able to key into this.
Well, what's
but
the
those who
result
don't
of
want to key, who let us know that they have retired without their refund, with some interest being paid on their contribution to the National Housing Fund, we put up a demand and we'll follow it up for them.
Tell us about the last strike that held about the fuel subsidy. There were some agreements, as it were. What's the latest on that one? Because there was some information that refineries were going to come on stream. Now the information out there is that it's no longer possible. There were supposed to be some buses. What exactly is the result of that last strike, and what's going on with it now?
Yeah, Chamberlain, I heard about the last strike, but I didn't get the details of your question.
In terms of the agreements that were reached, what is going on now about the buses, the refineries? What's the latest? Yeah,
okay. I think it may not have progressed at the speed that we had envisioned and envisaged. But so right now, some group of private investors have signed off on starting off some private refineries. The government is going on maintenance. You will notice that between that time and now, the capacities, the delivery capacities of the refineries, existing oil refineries, had improved. We may not have achieved the 100% that we looked forward to, but at least right now it's gone beyond the 20% that it used to be and hovering anywhere between 70–80%. But we still insist. But of course, again, you do know that the Shopee thing is a fallout of that agreement, and the Shopee is progressing, and yes, in some states it probably is not being managed too well, but you can see that now rail lines are being renovated and brought back to life. You can see roads being mended here and there, which wasn't the position before. You can also see some employment being generated through this service from Shopee. But yes, that is not to say that all is well in that direction, but at least these are some benefits and enhancements from that agreement.
Well, just quickly, some people want to know if Labour is also interested in doing anything about taxation Some workers feel that they're paying too much tax. Have you noticed any examples in any states, and what are you doing about it?
Yeah, and in fact, we have also presented our alternative views on the taxation to both chambers of the National Assembly. We have constantly engaged. We have had reductions made. The tax law has been reviewed, but it's still not satisfactory. There's still a further review going on. Because as it were, you find out that workers that are in employment, particularly in the organized private sector and public sector, are the only ones paying tax. So why do you want to kill us with the tax that you extract from us? So we are engaging the appropriate authorities, including the central government, along with. So it's ongoing. We are not satisfied at the level and the rate of taxation on our members. We've been able to bring it down to some level, but we have not gotten to where we are comfortable with.
Promise Adewusi is the Deputy President of Nigerian Labour Congress. Thank you for speaking with us today on Sunrise Daily.